I think that the key thing here is we have now actually got competition for Ethan Laird. So I think this is going to make Ethan Laird a better player.
Yep.
But also we mentioned in the post-match video against Reading that we think that Chris Davies is going to need at least half a dozen competitive games to try and work out what his best 11 actually are. So, welcome back to Smallest Alliance FC. And once again, Birmingham City have brought in another player into the squad for the new season. This is our 11th signing of the season, and that is Alfons Sampsted, who's a right back we've bought from Twente FC. So, this video is all about this signing, about the player, a few stats you might not know about him, and how me and Matt think that he'll fit into the Birmingham City squad. So, Matt, straight over to you. What's your thoughts on this signing?
So on paper, this seems like another steal to me. This seems like a great signing. And I saw his interview yesterday on the official Blues channel. Seems very likable, very intelligent, and
Yeah.
most importantly to me, he seems like he has that attitude that he's going to fit in with Chris Davies and the Birmingham City supporters. And we can get into his attributes and his positives, but one of those is work rate and his effort on the pitch, and I think that's really going to go down well
Yeah.
with the Blues fans. And most importantly for me here, this transfer now creates competition for Ethan Laird at
Yeah,
the right back space.
absolutely.
That is absolutely key for me. And Dad, Laird had a pretty poor game at the weekend against Reading in terms of his final ball, his distribution. But we both like Ethan Laird. There's no denying he's a good player.
Yeah.
But he definitely has to work on that distribution and final ball.
I think his end product has got to be better.
But now signing Sampsted, that allows to have that competition, and
Yeah.
hopefully, in theory, it should raise Ethan Laird's game because someone's right behind him. And I think again in this position we'll see changes in
Yeah.
the cup, in the league, and
Yeah.
I think it's great for rotation. It's great for getting a little bit more depth in the right back position.
Yeah, this is one of those positions that we've already said in previous podcasts. We desperately need competition, and now we've got it. He's 26 years old. He's 1.8 metres, so he's 6 foot tall. So he's around about the same height as me. Obviously, I'm sitting down, so people don't know how high I am, but I am 6 foot tall. And he's an Icelandic international as well, so he's got a bit of experience. He's been playing in the Eredivisie for Twente FC, so that's the top league in the obviously in Holland.
Yeah.
So I think that as I'm reluctant to call him a backup because I think it's going to be a good competition between him and Ethan Laird to see who actually gets that call.
But this guy, for me, brings a bit more experience. And we've spoken, Dad, on our right-hand side about height and physicality.
Yeah.
He's 6 foot, so he actually gives us a bit more stature on that right-hand side. And we did see it against Reading, a little bit of physicality in certain parts. So he gives us, I think, a bit more stability on the right-hand side.
It's also the height. You mentioned the height, Matt, and I think that's important. He's 6 foot, so he's not a massively tall player, but 6 foot's a good height for a defender. So if he's a right back, I'd imagine that depends upon the opposition and who we're playing. If he's man marking somebody who's tall, that's good because he's got that height. But also, I see him as possibly being the first line of defence. So when they've got a corner, the opposition have got a corner on their left, which would be our right, he'll potentially be the one that will be the first one in front between the ball and the rest of the players. So therefore, he's got a really important. So basically, we've got a bit of a barrier.
Yeah.
Which we didn't have with Ethan Laird. Ethan Laird is more of a tricky type of a player, isn't he?
He's quick.
He's quick. Yeah.
He's known for his attacking attributes more
Yeah.
than he is defending. And as I said, he needs to definitely improve on his final ball. But I've been doing a bit of research on Sam today. And I know you've got
I've got stats.
the stat. You go for it, and I'll bounce off what stats you provided. I think he is more known for his defensive ability, but he can do the attacking side of the game as well. So I'm really excited to see what he's got.
So when I look at fullbacks, I like to, obviously, you can't really judge them on goals scored because they will get the odd goal here and there. But I look at more for a left or a right back or a wing back or whatever they're called or however they're played. What is their assists? Because obviously their main role is defensive to start with, but the way that Chris Davies is setting up our team, it's as an attacking team. So they're not just the defenders; they're there to provide assists and to help us on the attack as well. So if we go through some of the stats on this on this player Alfons Sampsted, he's played for a number of teams. Bodø Glimt, which is I think they're a Norwegian team. I think they're Norwegian. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're Norwegian. He played 134 games for them. I think they win the UEFA Conference League. He scored 4 goals, but this is the crucial thing: 14 assists.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Now, I like that because I do you know a player I was really impressed with at Ipswich Town last season was Leif Davis.
Yeah. A lot of assists.
A lot of assists. He scored very few goals, but he was pacey. And I think this is what we lacked is where we've got sort of in wide positions from either wing backs or even from wingers. Our supply has not been great.
Well,
I think this could change.
I think Cody Drama last season gave us a bit more of a better outlet. He used to get crosses into the box. If you remember that home game against West Brom, that Sanderson goal. Miyoshi, Drama put a ball in for Miyoshi. His assists were decent, and Laird's never really gave us much in terms of the assists and getting the ball in the box. And as a fullback, you're naturally quite wide. And you saw me as a kid growing up that I was always a left back.
Yeah.
So for me, there's 2 things I look for, especially in the modern game. One is interceptions and their ability to put a tackle in, because they still have to do, they're in the defensive line. They have to be able to put a challenge in. They have to be able to intercept and break up play. And 2 is now in the modern game, fullbacks are expected to get up the pitch and put crosses into the box, aren't they? So if they can get assists as well. And this is why teams like Ipswich do so well, because their fullbacks contribute to goals.
And I think this is touching from that, but I think this is where you've raised a good point there, because I think this is where at the moment Ethan Laird let himself down. He does get into those positions and he has got pace and he is tricky, but his end product is poor at the moment. And that's what needs to improve, because it's okay getting up the pitch, but if there's no end product, you've not really sort of gained anything, have you? Mm-hmm. This guy, I hope and think, by looking at his stats, he's going to be a bit more of an end product type of a guy. Who is going to get the pitch, but he's going to make crosses. Let me just read out the rest of his stats in terms of his club, because I think they're very interesting. So he played for most of his games have been for Bodø Glimt in Norway. 134 games he played for them, 4 goals, 14 assists, and Twente FC, 44 goals. 44 goals, that'd be great. 44 games he's played for them, 1 goal and 2 assists. So that's not brilliant as well. Played for a club called Breidelblink, 34 games played, 1 goal, 3 assists, and a team called Norrköping where they're under 21s. Played 21 games, 4 goals and 1 assist. But as I mentioned, I'm more looking at the way these type of players, these fullbacks, these wing backs, you can't really judge them on goals scored, because they are going to chip in here and there. So we're not judging a goal scorer here or a forward. This is a defender. So I think that his amount of assists are, particularly in Bodø Glimt when he played for them, very, very impressive. And if we can get him up the pitch and to get that end product, I think he'll be a good supply line for our forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's Icelandic international, and apparently he grew up and was best friends with Willemsen, who's obviously our number 10. So that really helps with him settling into the team, gelling. He'll have that friendship there. I'm sure he'll help him settle in, all those little things, which will be nice. And Icelandic international, I think he's had 21 caps.
21 games he's played for Iceland.
Again, that's not bad. Iceland haven't got a bad international team. So, to be at that level, he's always quite impressive. And I was doing a little bit of research last night on the internet, looking at forums, looking at some threads and things like this. And I stumbled across a really interesting one from the FC Twente. Is it Twente FC or FC Twente? Either way.
I think it's Twente FC, but okay. I had the same issue.
So I saw a forum of their fans and they were discussing him, and a Blues fan popped up in there because it was an open one and said, what can we expect? And quite a few fans pitched in and said a little bit about him and his game and his strengths. If you don't mind, just a few things here. Just a few.
No, I think this is important.
Key areas of his game. His strengths are, number 1, they said interceptions. And again, coming back to what I said earlier, as a right back, that's a pretty key attribute, isn't it? You have to be able to break up play.
Yeah.
Work rate and stamina. He'll put a shift in. And as Blues fans, we know one of the biggest ways to win over our hearts is to have a player with a good work rate, good energy, and just leaves it all on the pitch. So I think he's going to be really popular with the fans if he has that sort of engine on him. He's reliable, safe pair of hands on the pitch in the attacking side and defensive side. They say he's got good elements to both of his games, which is nice to hear. And his versatility, I'm not too sure whether many people know this. He can cover left back, and he can, on a very rare occasion, cover centre back as well. So although he's a right back, if the worst day came and we suddenly got flooded with injuries and suspensions, he is versatile across the back line. Always nice to know and always nice to have. And always gets stuck in, offers something different. And they said they like the fact he's 6 foot, because what we said earlier, that gives him that little bit of height and that little bit of physicality in the game. So for me, again, I don't know much about this player. We always have to do our research, Dad. But from what I've been reading and seeing on paper, I think he seems like a great addition to the team.
Yeah, and he's coming from a decent side as well. Twente FC or FC Twente, whichever they are. As we mentioned, they are in the top league in Holland, and they are a well-established
They
top
finished
league.
top 3 last season, didn't they?
I'm not sure, to be honest, but I looked at obviously their season, like ours, is just, well, their top season is just, I think they've played one game or it's about to start. I can't remember, so I had to go back to last season because I like to look at the games that the club have played, and I can see why he wanted to move. He was very much a bit part player for Twente, so he spent a lot of games on the bench. So from games 17 to 34, which is like half the season, half of that he was picked on the bench, and when he did come on, he was on for 45 minutes here and there. So he needed to move as well, to be honest. And I mean, that's not saying he's a bad player. It just means that they felt that somebody probably he wasn't the first choice there.
And the fans addressed this in the forum. They said he's a perfect backup to, I can't remember the name of their first team right back. But you got to remember, this is the top flight of Dutch football. He's coming down to League One in the English football. So he is arguably going to be a second at that level. So he's made the decision for his career. He wants more first team football. And as I say, for us as Birmingham City, it creates competition at right back, gives us a little bit more height there if needed, and I think he's going to be a good addition to this team.
So you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that you felt that you think he'll be first choice. Is that?
We've said that we like Ethan Laird, but a couple of times last season and this season, that end delivery and that final product just isn't there. So who knows if Laird can improve that and move forward in his game? Could be a really good battle for that right back space, but I don't think this guy's come here to sit on the bench again. I think this guy's come here to play some minutes, and I think he will get into the first team eventually.
I think that the key thing here is we have now actually got competition for Ethan Laird. So I think this is going to make Ethan Laird a better player.
Yeah.
But also we mentioned in the post-match video against Reading that we think that Chris Davies is going to need at least half a dozen competitive games to try and work out what his best 11 actually are. Now, each of these players, now obviously we've got nearly 2 players for every position virtually all across the pitch now. There's maybe a few gaps which I'm sure will be filled in the final few weeks of the transfer window. But we have got competition now. So all these players are going to know if they're not picked as part of the starting lineup now with the competition, it's going to really sort of make them work really, really hard to try and get in the team, to try and impress Chris Davies, to try and improve the force. Ethan Laird, he's going to know that he had a disappointing end product against Reading. You can't ever criticise his effort, in my opinion.
You can't.
I think he runs up and down that pitch. He works hard. So nobody's questioning that he puts the shift in every single game. But of course, it's ultimately it's what you do at the end of that. Obviously, defending wise, he's quick. He gets back quickly, but moving forward, we need to see something else at the other end of the pitch from him. So go round a few players, get in and zip behind, but then you've got to get a cross in. I think he only had a couple of crosses. He made one good cross actually that I can remember against Reading from the right hand side, which was just on the goal line. Crossed it. I think Hansen had a sort of a half volley which would hit the ground and into the goalkeeper's hand. So there were signs there, but he's got. I mean, we were down the because obviously we sit in the Tilton. A couple of times he got past the defender and like the ball, he ran out of pitch. He ran out of pitch. The ball just rolled out because he just. So
I think there was some poor decision making from his behalf in the attacking third of that game. Pushing it too far past the defender, cutting in when he shouldn't have, not getting the ball in the box, letting it run out. And we're not going to dwell on this too much. I think we all know Ethan Laird in the final third last weekend against Reading had a poor game. But I just want to come back to your point about him being a starter as well, Dad. And do you think, obviously, Chris Davies is a very intelligent manager. He researches his opposition. He knows what game plan they're arguably going to do. And in League One, we've spoke about this. We slightly need different game plan depending on the type and style of game. We're going to get games where they park the bus, it's very physical. We're going to get games where it's 100 mile an hour. We're going to get all sorts of games this season. So maybe he might look at certain games, a bit like the Reading game where it was quite physical, quite competitive, and he might decide to start Sampsted in those games because he adds that extra level of height and he adds that extra level of something else. And he might decide to play Laird in those games where we have a little bit more attacking freedom maybe, or a little bit more scope to push the defenders a little bit higher up the line. So I think Chris Davies is the kind of manager who's intelligent, who's going to utilise Sampsted and Laird in the way in which we
Yeah.
play in possession against a certain opposition.
Completely, and what you've just mentioned there is exactly what we want. We've got options, so we can adapt it. I mean, obviously, we are going to get, and we keep mentioning it, we are going to get injuries, we are going to get suspension. So there are going to be occasions where they won't both be available and not be the same all across the pitch. But we have got options. So for example, if Ethan Laird would have got injured, then you're thinking, well, okay, we've got probably Brandon Keeler we could have put in there. But he's a young lad and he's developing, Brandon Keeler, and he needs to be developed appropriately. But now we've got a more experienced player in there as well. So I think that's what we need. So we're building this squad, not team, this squad that can, like you said, I think the adaptation's good because Chris Davies has these different options that now he can look at the opposition, as you mentioned, and then just decide who is the best player to go into that position. So yeah, another what appears to be another good a good addition.
Yeah, nothing more for me. I don't think. I think for me, on paper, I'm reading and seeing a lot of impressive stuff. Let's see how he adapts to League One and English football. It creates competition for Ethan Laird and gives us that depth at right back. This can only be a good thing to the club. And again, as always, I always say I can't wait to see what he's got on the pitch.
I'm sure we'll see that soon. But what do you think, Birmingham City supporters? This is our 11th signing of the transfer window, and that does sound like a lot of signings, doesn't it? But actually, when you think of the players that have left, we have 5 of our out of contract players that left. We had 5 loan players going back, and there's no Bakuna in the squad numbers. There's no Longello. We lost Alex Pritchard, so that just on a simple count. Oh, and Jordan James has now gone as well. That's 14 players that have gone from last season. So tells us that we are going to get more, but this particular signing as well is something that I think that me and Matt have been talking about that we've needed for quite a long time. But what's your thoughts on the signing? What do you think? Do you think he'll add to the squad? Add a comment below and let us know what your thoughts are. And of course, if you did like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and give us a like. If you haven't checked out our social media channels as well, make sure you pop over to our X page and our Instagram page, and you'll see those handles appearing on the screen right now. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content all about Birmingham City. And myself and Matt will see you on the next video.